If you're brand new to Adventures in Good Company, we're so glad you found us. As you know, today we're going to be talking about the Boundary Waters. We have a really fun canoe adventure planned for this fall, and we'll go ahead and get started.
So yeah, this is just a quick look at our agenda for today. So we're just going to go through a general introduction of the Boundary Waters, go through AGC's history and its connection to the Boundary Waters, look at our itinerary that's unique to AGC, and like Julie said, offer up some prizes, and we'll have time for Q&A at the end.
Terrific. So today, Dory and I have the esteemed pleasure of talking about this beautiful area. As you can see, I'm the Director of Guest Services and Sales. I joined AGC in 2019, and I've been guiding just a couple times a year. So if I've met you on a trip, so good to see you. And if I haven't met you yet, I look forward to seeing you one day. And Dory is our Director of Marketing and Communications and has been with AGC for a couple of years. And Dory gets to go on the Boundary Waters trip this fall. We also have here listed who your Boundary Waters guides will be. So we have Adele and Lindsay. They're not on this call, but they are wonderful guides.
Thanks, Julie. So I guess just jumping right into the area itself, so accessible primarily by canoe. The Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness is in northeast Minnesota. It's one of America's most beautiful and remote places. Its vast wilderness extends 150 miles along the US-Canada border, covering approximately 1 million acres, with over 1,100 lakes and 1,500 miles of canoe routes. And this area attracts more than 150,000 visitors annually. And just for some context, since we're based out of Colorado, if you think about Rocky Mountain National Park, that park itself is just over 265,000 acres and gets 4.5 million visitors a year. So it's a much smaller region than the Boundary Waters, but a larger crowd. And it's just a quarter of the size of the Boundary Waters. So that really speaks to the remoteness and kind of the solitude that the Boundary Waters brings.
Okay, I get to talk about the geography. These photos are from the National Forest website. So you can see over on the left here is Minnesota, and then the top right corner is the Superior National Forest. And it was established in 1909. Oh, and by the way, if you want to take some notes on these interesting facts, we will be having 2 trivia questions at the end. Don't feel like you have to write down everything, but if you're interested in winning a prize, it might behoove you to take note of some of these statistics. So the Superior National Forest is a 3 million acre forest, and it's the largest national forest east of the Mississippi River. It's located at the southernmost edge of the boreal forest ecosystem and is home to thousands of freshwater lakes. So as you can see in the light green, that's the Boundary Waters Wilderness area, and then the darker green that is encompassed around the outside, that's the Superior National Forest.
So this area has a pretty fascinating natural history, and it's been shaped by geological forces over thousands of years. So during the last ice age, massive glaciers covered this region, and as they advanced and retreated, they scored the earth, kind of carving out the unique topography that we see in this area today. And so the pressure and movement of these glaciers shaped the land by gouging out deep valleys and smoothing over rock surfaces. So as the glaciers receded, they left behind a really diverse array of geological features. They have everything from rugged cliffs and crags formed from harder rock that resisted the erosion. But in contrast, there are some softer areas that have become gentle hills, and there was dynamic movement of ice also left towering rock formations that stand out kind of as natural monuments. But yeah, and these lakes, so let's see, one of the most remarkable legacies of the glaciers is the vast network of lakes that it left behind. And these lakes are interconnected by rivers and streams, really creating a unique aquatic landscape perfect for canoeing and exploring.
Okay, so conservation history. This area was set aside in 1926 to preserve its primitive character, and then it was made into a wilderness preservation system in 1964 and finally legally protected in 1978. And if you'll tell me in the chat section who here has been to the Boundary Waters before? If you haven't yet, I hope you can join us soon on this trip. It is absolutely stunning. And I do want to mention if you've seen, oh, yes, and the Quetico is kind of the Canadian park just on the other side of the border, but very similar landscape and connecting through bordering lakes. So did want to mention there have been heavy rains. I think I saw Haley join the call who lives in northern Minnesota, close to this area. And we don't anticipate any changes to our itinerary. If anything, it'll be nice to have the lakes full and fresh. And the rains today probably won't make a difference in what we're portaging and experiencing in September. Okay, I did want to mention wildlife. So if you've heard the saying crazy as a loon, it's because of the loon duck makes a really haunting call at night, which is beautiful. Here are two pictures from our previous trips. We have a beaver and a loon there in the distance. And on these adventures, you may run into badgers, bald eagles, bats, black bears, beaver, chipmunks, snowshoe hare, loons, coyotes, deer, fox, minks, moose, painted turtle, river otter, ruffed grouse, pine marten shrews, and others. It truly is just a magnificent landscape to observe wildlife.
So in 2020, the Boundary Waters area was designated as a dark sky sanctuary. And the significance, so there are only 20 such sanctuaries in the entire world. And a few other ones that we probably have heard about. So Big Bend National Park, Rainbow Bridge National Monument, that's in Utah, Kerry International Dark Reserve in Ireland. So they vary from stateside to international. But these Starry Night sanctuaries are protected for scientific, natural, and educational value.
Okay, so some of you may be familiar with AGC's history, but we like to think that we were born in the Boundary Waters. So back in the 1970s, there was an organization called Woodswomen, the precursor to AGC, and the Woodswomen came to be when four wonderful women organized a trip to canoe overnight. And they thought of themselves as woodswomen. So they started the organization and they became a pioneer in the outdoor industry, specifically for women's programming. And we'll talk a little bit more about the evolution in the next couple slides.
Yeah, so we can venture through the history of AGC, which has roots right here in the Boundary Waters. So Marion Marbury, our founder, was always passionate about outdoor adventure. However, back in 1971, the landscape for women in this industry was very different. Opportunities were limited, and it was challenging for women to find viable career paths in outdoor recreation. But despite the obstacles, Marion's determination and ambition never wavered. Unsure how to merge her love for the outdoors with a sustainable career, she pursued higher education and earned a doctorate in epidemiology from Harvard School of Public Health. And it wasn't until 1987 when she discovered a Woods Women flyer offering outdoor leadership courses for women, and that she saw a real opportunity to follow her dreams. So she eagerly signed up for these courses, really marking the beginning of her journey in the outdoor industry. And so for the next 10 years, Marion balanced her career as an epidemiologist still with her passion for outdoor adventure. So she guided numerous trips for Woods Women and found immense joy in leading and inspiring others. And also during this time, she volunteered in the Woods Women office, where she discovered a newfound love for trip planning and development. And this experience was really instrumental in shaping her vision for AGC.
Okay, so continuing on this fun history, Marion, in an interview, said, "When Woods Woman finally closed its doors in 1999, I was ready to make the leap and try starting my own company. I was incredibly fortunate to be able to build on the knowledge and experience I'd gained, to employ Woods Woman guides I'd already known, and to buy the Woods Woman mailing list, and to adopt many of the trip itineraries." So in 1999, truly before the advent of the internet was popular for commercial enterprise, she was able to build an incredible company just using the mailing list and leaning into the guides that she already knew. And there are 3 guides that are still leading with Adventures in Good Company today that were Woods Woman guides back in the 90s. And those 3 wonderful women are Brenda Porter, Ann Flukiger, and Deb Malman. I like to think of them as our founding dames, and we are so lucky to still have them. And Anne and Deb both live in Minnesota, and so they have led these Boundary Water canoe trips over the years.
So now we can walk through what you can expect on this experience with AGC. So this is roughly a 7-day itinerary. So the first and last days are kind of your arrival and settling in days. But on day 1, our adventure begins in Duluth. You'll either fly in or drive, where we'll meet as a group. And from there, we'll drive together to Ely, Minnesota. And that's where everything starts for our canoeing adventure. So day 2, we set out on canoeing. We'll paddle through the pristine waters and spend our first night camping under the stars. And for the next few days, so days 3 to 5, we'll continue the canoe journey, setting up camp at different sites each night. The location of where those campsites could vary. It really depends on what's occupied and what's not. So these days are really filled with paddling, exploring, and just kind of enjoying the nature around you. And on the 6th day is when we're wrapping up our canoe adventure, and we return to Ely for a well-deserved rest. We'll stay overnight in a charming bug house that feels like summer camp, but offering a cozy and nostalgic end to this style of a trip. So after you've rested that night, the final day is on day 7, and we drive back to Duluth, where you'll be able to fly out. So we should be back by noon, so you'll have plenty of time for travel. But a quick note too, if you are planning on flying into this area for this trip, you will want to book your flight sooner rather than later. This is a smaller airport, so smaller planes, the flight options fill up pretty quickly. But we do have the full itinerary on our website, so you can see more in depth what that day-to-day looks like.
And on each day while you're backcountry canoeing, this is what your schedule might look like. Wake up at 7 a.m., your guides prepare a delicious breakfast. Then around 8, you'll pack up camp. 9 a.m., be on the water, start canoeing. Plenty of time for snack breaks throughout the day. Have 1 to 3 portages each day. And then you might have a lesson in orienteering and map reading. Stop for lunch around 12. 2 p.m., arrive at the campsite and set up. Then there might be an optional short paddle out and back to explore the lake that we're camping on. Before relaxing, different options for reading your book, swimming, fishing, exploring, you name it. And then appetizers and dinner. And you're welcome to go to bed. I like to call it hiker midnight as soon as the sun goes down, or you can stay up and tell stories around the campfire. But this is truly a wonderful vacation where there's hardly any cell phone service. So the outside world can't really bug us, and we just get to relax and focus on having fun together.
So equipment, this is something really important to kind of cover. So this is a group camp style trip, but you are also wanting to bring some individual items. So a lot of these items will be like sleeping pad, sleeping bag, layers of clothing, your own kind of cups for beverages, water bottles, any like rain gear, toiletries, any kind of like smaller scale stuff that you would normally bring on camping nature trips. And so a lot of the bigger scale gear that you see here is provided by our outfitter. But if there is something that you need, you can just let our guides know, and we can figure out how to help you and accommodate you. And we will be camping in two-person tents. These are provided by the outfitter. So unless you've requested a specific roommate, we rotate roommates each night. And this is a great way to get to know different members of the group and kind of share the whole experience with them. And from past travelers, we had asked them for advice to give future travelers on this trip. And the overwhelming response was follow the packing list. So it's designed to ensure you have everything you need for a safe and enjoyable trip. If you do sign up for this trip, we have a very thorough packing list, and our team works closely with you to make recommendations and to make sure you have everything before actually arriving on this trip.
And a little bit about the canoes that we use. They're called, the model is called Winona, and it's a Kevlar canoe weighing between 38 and 44 pounds. And then, as you can see, we provide the life jacket and these comfortable crazy creeks that you can use in the canoe and then also relaxing at the end of a long day. And then these big bags you see here in the middle are called Duluth bags. And they're basically like big boxes that are comfortable to carry on the portages that you can put all your stuff into. And if you don't have a sleeping pad or bag, you're welcome to rent one from the outfitter. So food, we used to say it's gourmet cuisine for or backcountry gourmet, but we can really accommodate a lot of different dietary needs and still make it a hearty, delicious meal. You can see here on the left, we're cooking pancakes for breakfast. In the middle there, that's an appetizer plate in the afternoon. And then at the end of the night, we'll have some sort of dessert like s'mores after dinner before we head to bed. And no one will go hungry, I promise that. And your guides work really hard to make delicious meals.
So let's chat about portaging, which is obviously an essential part of this adventure. If this term is new to you, it's the practice of carrying a watercraft or cargo over land, either around an obstacle in a river or between two bodies of water. So in this case, it's usually us navigating from one lake to another. So a path where items are regularly carried between bodies of water is also called a portage. And like Julie mentioned, the outfitter provides these bags called Duluth bags. So we're basically putting all of our gear in these to make it easier to make these portages in between. And this whole process really is a lot of teamwork. So if you feel like you're able to help carry the gear versus the canoes or the other way around, that's kind of where everyone's chipping in those portages. And like Julie said too, the canoes are lightweight, so they're not super heavy. And as you can see, some like individuals by themselves are carrying them. And we do about, the portage lengths do vary, but we do about 1 to 3 portages a day. So that means carrying our gear and canoes overland to the next body of water several times. So it does require a little bit more physical activity on this trip.
And even if you've completed a Boundary Waters trip with AGC before, no two trips are the same. Even a back-to-back canoe trip would be totally different, not only because of people, but because campsites, most of them are first come, first serve. So it's a really fun adventure in that you never quite know what you're going to get and where you're going to end up that night. And that's also allowing for a lot of flexibility if we realize that there's a better, bigger campsite a little farther down, or if the group's feeling exhausted at the end of a day, we can choose a closer campsite. So it's great to have that flexibility. So talking about the activity level, at AGC, we rate our trips from 1 to 5, 5 being the most challenging. So Boundary Waters trip is right in the middle, a level 3. And we ask you to prepare for 4 to 6 hours of activity each day. And for getting in and out of a canoe, it does require some basic balance and agility. But if you've never ever been canoeing, you are more than welcome on this trip. We'll teach you everything you need to know.
So if you've traveled with us before, you know that we offer a lot of resources and training for the activity level of the trip that you sign up for. And one of those is our fitness guide. So Whether you look at the fitness guide or some of the other recommended materials that we provide, there are items like this. So recommended exercises for a paddling trip, we really are focusing a lot on the upper body and your arms. So our fitness guide is available to download on our website. You don't have to sign up for a trip to receive it, but it is an added benefit so that you know which level to be preparing for. So some of these typical exercises that we recommend are your shoulder press, the front and lateral raises, so some like tabletop with ankle and leg extensions. So pretty basic, but if you do them over time and build on top of it, you are kind of on the right path to be prepared for any kind of paddling adventure.
And if everything that Dora just mentioned sounded like complete mumbo jumbo, no problem, because we also offer a partnership with Becky Rupp, who is wonderful at getting people ready for their adventures. She offers a free 30-minute consultation. So even if you've been canoeing before and you think I'm probably fine, but it'd be great to check with a professional if I need to add any specific strength training into my routine, she's really knowledgeable and super friendly. And she was just hiking Kilimanjaro recently. So she knows firsthand what it's like to train for an adventure trip. And so I highly encourage you to take advantage of that. Even if you're not going on this trip with AGC, it's nice to get ready for whatever your next travel is, because so many times we run into the situation where someone, and I'm not going to call out names, but oftentimes our younger participants will rely on their youthfulness to get them through the activity level. And so I've seen a level 5 hiking trip with a 72-year-old and a 35-year-old. And it's usually the 35-year-old that says, "Ooh, I was not ready for this." So learn from the young's mistakes and train adequately so you can fully enjoy your vacation and not feel sore each day. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending. If you don't have any questions or don't need anything else, you're welcome to hop off. And thank you so much for your time today. We hope that everyone will join us on a Boundary Waters Canoe Adventure soon. And we'd love to have you join.